Great. So here we are going to today going to learn step by step AngularJS, and in today we have in the agenda that we will learn how to set up Visual Studio for AngularJS development. Then we'll start with writing simple AngularJS app. Then we'll move forward and understand how a scope object and root scope object works. And then in further in the webinar, we'll focus on controllers, services, and directives, etc. If my voice is not audible to you, let me know, and if you are not able to view the screen. Before we move ahead, there's a giveaway in today's webinar. If during the webinar or maybe after the webinar, you tweet your experience about the webinar using the hashtag Infragistics, or you tag Infragistics official Twitter handle, you may have a chance to win cool goodies from us. That may be Infragistic t-shirt or could be anything. So feel free to share your love experience with us on the tweet with the hashtag Infragistics, and we would be happy to read your experience about the webinar. Before I move ahead, people who are from Delhi NCR region, who are from Noida, Gurgaon, Delhi, you have an opportunity to join a full day workshop tomorrow. So we are hosting Infragistics Day tomorrow in Noida, and that is free of cost to attend. You can come and attend that. That is in Sector 63 Noida, and details of that can be found on csharpcorner.com website. If you go to that website and in their menu, you can go and select chapters, and then in their menu, you select the Delhi chapters. You'll find a registration page for the Infragistics Day. In the webinar, I'll also share this URL with you, the registration URL, and you see that it is happening tomorrow in Noida Sector 63, and this is a full day free workshop where you are going to learn about everything about AngularJS, and it would be completely like you need to come up with your laptop. If you don't come with your laptop, you will not get entry. So this is a great opportunity for you if you are from Delhi region. Tomorrow you are free to come here. Keep in mind just one thing, that you need to come up with your laptop, and there are only 100 to 120 seats, and already 420 people have registered. So to make sure that you get a seat, if you are coming, come on the time, and it's like first come first serve basis. So you are welcome to join tomorrow in Infragistics Day, and we'll be happy to again teach you there. Okay, so this was all about the housekeeping. Go ahead and start tweeting using the hashtag Infragistics, and if you are from Delhi, join us for Infragistics Day. Great. I'm the host for today webinar. My name is Dhananjay Kumar. I work as a evangelist for Infragistics, and I'm a CSAP 6 times Microsoft MVP, CSAP Corner mentor, and you can reach me on Twitter at debug_mode. You may want to take a screenshot of this PPT, this slide, for my further communication, email and Twitter. Uh, let us go ahead and start learning AngularJS now. So you see that what is AngularJS? Very first, AngularJS is a Google library on JavaScript-based library which helps us to create single-page application. in the single page application, what you do, you actually don't have multiple pages. So if you create a website in PHP, or if you create a website in ASP.NET for that matter, what you do, you navigate from one page to another page. So you may have a page 1.aspx and then page 2.aspx, and you navigate from one page to another. However, in single page application, what you do, that you don't have multiple pages, you have multiple views, and you load those views in an asynchronous manner on a single page. So you may have a different view to create a record, you may have a different view to edit a record, and different view to to delete a record. All those views would be getting loaded on a single HTML page in an asynchronous manner, and that is known as single page application. So AngularJS is a Google is a framework created by Google to create a single page application. AngularJS is completely client side library. It has nothing to do with your server. So you can use it with any kind of library, any kind of server side technology for like PHP, Java, or ASP.NET. So as you see on your screen, AngularJS is a client-side framework. It is used to create single-page app. It is very easy to create a to follow a test-driven development in your app if you are following the AngularJS. So we'll see that when we do do demos and write code on the AngularJS. Great. So this is introduction of AngularJS. And before I move ahead and understand main components of AngularJS, let us go ahead and set up the environment and start writing some code. In meantime, guys, please do let me know whether my voice is audible to you or not, and whether you are able to see my screen. So you are able to see my screen properly or not. Thank you. So what I'm doing here, that on your screen you can see that I have launched a Visual Studio. In Visual Studio, you can use any version of Visual Studio, or you can use any IDE of your choice. Keep in mind that even though I am using Visual Studio for the complete demo, you are free to choose any IDE of your choice, and whatever concept we'll talk today, that will work anywhere, because AngularJS is a client-side technology, and it just needs a notepad to start with the development. So what I'm doing in Visual Studio, I'll go and say, hey, create a new project for me. So I clicked on new project, then I click on the web. Now select ASP.NET Web Application. So as you see on your screen that I selected the web and then ASP.NET Web Application. Then I'll browse and I'll say that, hey, I want to create it in the desktop. I'll call it Web App 1. Then I click on OK. Okay, so here on the next screen, I have various options like if I want to create an empty application, or I want to create web forms, MVC, web API, I'll go ahead and create an empty web application. Keep in mind that even though I am using here ASP.NET ASP.NET server web server to host my AngularJS application and serve the web page, you can host it in any server of your choice, like Apache or Node.js server, anywhere. So I selected empty over here. Now click on OK. So here I am creating a empty web application in ASP.NET empty web application in Visual Studio. And as you can see on your screen, that actually this application does not contain anything as of now. It has just a config file and some references, which are also not very no, I mean .NET specific references, they are not there. So here you see that we have a very empty web application. Next, what I'll do, I'll right click on my project and I'll say manage NuGet packages. You can use you can download the AngularJS library from AngularJS website and and manually add that to project, or you can use AngularJS CDN as well. What I'm doing, I'm using NuGet package of Visual Studio to install the AngularJS library. If you are working with on a Mac machine, you can use board to the client side dependency installation. And here you see that I have AngularJS. I'll say that okay, install for me. So here I'm installing AngularJS in my project. So here AngularJS is getting installed. Great. I also need another libraries of AngularJS like routing. So routing, what is routing? Let us first understand that. Routing means routing from one page to another page, or rather routing from one view to another view. This routing framework is not part of core AngularJS framework, and to work with the routing, you need to install another library, and which I'm installing here, AngularJS route. So click on install. I'll say yes to all. You see that I have installed AngularJS, AngularJS core, and AngularJS route. You can see on your screen. Great, so I have installed AngularJS, AngularJS core, and AngularJS route in my project. Next, what will I do? I'll go and install Bootstrap. Why I need Bootstrap? Just to make my page little bit more immersive. So here I have Bootstrap CSS. I just search that there and click on install. So it is installing Bootstrap now. So what I have done, I'm using Visual Studio and using the NuGet package, I have installed AngularJS libraries and the Bootstrap library. If you are using Eclipse, how you go ahead and create a web application in Eclipse, then download this library from AngularJS website and manually add them, how you add a jQuery library. So there's nothing much differences doing development in Visual Studio or doing development in Eclipse. Both are almost same. And I'm sure since you are using Eclipse for the long time, you know how to add JavaScript and CSS libraries in your web project over there. So it would be handy, Balaji. Okay, so here we'll go, and since I have added that, the Bootstrap and AngularJS, I'll click on close. Great. So here my project is ready for AngularJS development. You can see on your screen that all these AngularJS libraries are added there now, which I need to use in my project. Okay. Now let us go ahead, and very first what we'll say that, hey, give me a index.html. I'll go and add HTML page. So I'll call that as index.html. Right click on your project and say that, hey, add a new item called index.html, which I have added over here. Great, so here are HTML page being added. Okay. In this HTML page, we can say demo page or something like that. Now what I need to do, I need to add references of AngularJS on my HTML. And for that, I'll go to scripts folder and select AngularJS from here and drag and drop it here. So what I have done here, I have added in line number 5, reference of AngularJS. Okay. Next, what I want to add reference of Bootstrap CSS also, and that should be inside content folder. I'll go ahead and say drag and drop bootstrap.css. So here in line number 5, I have added bootstrap.css as well. These two libraries, let us go ahead, and what we do, we'll say that, hey, add a div, add a class as container. Okay, and inside this class, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a very simple input box, and that input box will say that input type equal to text. placeholder, enter your name. So here I'm going to show you the power of AngularJS, how easy it is the AngularJS to work with. Here I'm saying placeholder, enter your name. That's it. Now what I want that in the real time when user is typing their his or her name in this in text box, that should get displayed on the screen. So some of you are saying in the chat window that voice is not audible. Can please everyone confirm me whether my voice is audible or not? Great. So here I have added a enter your name. Next, what I'll be doing let me go ahead and give a variable name to this input box, and this input box is ng model equal to, let us say, name. Now what is ng model? Ng model is a directive of AngularJS. I repeat, ng model is a directive of AngularJS. What is directive? I'm coming that later. Which we use to create a variable, or which we use to assign a name to a HTML element, right? So what I'm saying that, hey, ng model is name. Focus on line number 10. Then I'll put a breakpoint here, and then I'll say that, hey, I want to render that. So I'll say welcome name. So what you see on your screen in line number 10, I have created a very simple input box, but I have assigned a variable name as ng model as name. Then I'm just displaying that name in line number 12. That's it. And before I go ahead and run it, I need to give an instruction to my browser that this is not a normal HTML document. It is an Angular app, and that can be done by putting another AngularJS directive called ng-app on top of your document. Keep in mind that you can put ng-app at any label in your document, but it is always advisable that you keep ng-app directive on the top of your document. So that's why I have put that on HTML element. Now we have created a very simple Angular app in which what we are saying that we will ask our user to enter her name, and in the real time we'll display that name to the user on the page. Now let us go ahead and run this app. To run in Visual Studio, you press F5. If you are using Eclipse or any other IDE of your choice, you need to follow instruction of that IDE to run the web application. So here you see that I got enter your name index.html, and if I go ahead and start writing my name on that text box, so if I go ahead and start writing my name in that text box, which you see on your screen, you see as I am writing my name, it is getting displayed in the real time. So I'll go here and I'll say, you see, this is the power of AngularJS, and what AngularJS is doing for you here, that it is for you managing the two-way binding. For you, it is doing the automatic UI refresh. For you, it is checking that whether the value has been changed in the variable or not, and all these things have been done for you by AngularJS framework. So this is a very powerful framework, and this was just a simple demo to showcase you the power of AngularJS. Let us go ahead and start building more complex application. So what I'm doing here, that I will go and add a code behind in my app. So I'll go and say that add a new JavaScript file, and let me call that as index.js. So I right clicked on my Visual Studio Solution Explorer, add new item, and adding a JavaScript file in my project and giving the name as index.js. Great, so I have added an index.js in my project. Next, what I'll do, I'll go here and in the index.js, such that my IntelliSense works, I'll drag and drop AngularJS reference on top of index.js. And after that, what I need to do, very first, your AngularJS application must have at least one module. Module is nothing but kind of namespace, you can consider it, and it is the collection of other AngularJS functionalities like controllers or services or filters or directives. Your AngularJS app may have any number of modules, but it will have always only one main module. I mean, it should have always only one main module, because module is related to your root scope, and you may want to have only one root scope for your app. So first, let us go ahead and create a module, and I'll say that where my app equal to Angular dot module, and you see that module takes these many parameters. First the name, so I'll say my app, and then it takes empty JavaScript array. I mean, it takes a JavaScript array. Of course, you can pass items in that JavaScript array. What I have done in line number 3, which you can see on your screen, that I'm saying that, hey, create AngularJS module. I'm giving the name of the AngularJS module as my app. And then right now I'm passing an empty JavaScript array. If later in the application I need to pass some dependencies for the application, I'll pass in this JavaScript array. So let us say that tomorrow you are having another module which you need, for example, module to make a HTTP service call, or you have a module which is dealing with logging, or a module which is dealing with local HTML5 storage, etc. You need to pass that module in this particular JavaScript array over here. So before your application will start bootstrapping, what AngularJS will do, it will go and read all the modules in this JavaScript array, load them in your application, and instantiate them as required if they are service. So I'll go here, and let us say tomorrow, let us say later in the application, you have a module called service module. You'll pass that module like this. You have another module called, let us say, login module. You'll pass that module like this. So in this way, you pass those modules as a dependency to your main module, and my app will work as a main module. So let me go ahead and delete this, because right now we don't have any module created with that name. So here we have created a module. After module, one of the most important component of AngularJS is controller. We'll go into detail of controller, that what is controller, but controller is someone which keeps your data and business logic. So your business logic and data will go, the application data, not the data of your database, the data which is already downloaded in your app. So your data and business logic will be part of the controller. Your view fetch the data through the controller. Your view get manipulated for a business logic and read the business logic in the controller. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and say that, hey, let us create a controller. So my app.controller, and the standard is that always your controller name should start with the capital letter, and it should be appended by the keyword controller. Here I'm going, and let us say I'm creating a controller called author controller, or let us say product controller. So you see, I have created a controller called product controller, and always controller is a JavaScript function. So it takes a function as a parameter. Now you can create a controller in two possible ways. I repeat here, you can create a controller in two possible ways. One is by passing the $scope object to your controller, and second by using the controller as syntax. I have seen most of the time, at least I use $scope object because I find that easy to use. If you want, you can use controller as syntax also. Since I'm going to use a scope object, I need to pass that scope object over here. So to create a controller, what you need to do, in line number 5, you can see on your screen that I'm passing the controller name, which is product controller, and then creating a function and passing the scope object in that. Now I'll go ahead and attach some data to this scope object. So I'll go ahead and say, hey, scope dot, and whatever property name I want to give, I can give name equal to, let us say, Infragistics. You see what I have done? I have created a data here called name. And to create a data, what you need to do, you need to create a property on the $scope object. To create a data or pass a data from your code behind to your view, you need to attach a property to your $scope object. So I am creating a data called name. So I have attached that in line number 7 as a property to $scope and assigning the value as Infragistics. Okay, now let us say that we want to display this data on the view, and how we can do that. For that, go to your index.html. Very first, go and drag and drop the index.js file, reference of index.js file. Once that is done, let's go ahead and get rid of this code and create one more div. Okay, so what I'm doing here, I'm creating one more div and giving the class as row, and then br such that I will have some break line from the top. Here what I have done, I have created a new div in line number 13, and here I want to display that data. So how I can display that data, I'll say hello and then use the data expression, which is two double curly braces, and I'll pass this name over there. So you see that what I'm doing in line number 14, which is very important, in the curly braces, I'm passing the variable name, which I attach as a property to $scope object, hello name. After that, I need to set the ng controller directive value for this div. This particular HTML need to know that where it can read the value of the name. The point is that in your application you can have 100 of controllers, and maybe in all the controllers you have this name property. Now how view knows that from which controller view has to read that particular value for the name property? So for that you need to assign value of ng controller on the HTML element, and here the value of ng controller is product controller. I'll copy paste that from here and put it here. Great. So I have set the value of product controller. Last but not least, what we need to do, we need to say that what is the main module name for the ng app. So here I'll go and say ng app equal to, and the main module name is my app. So we'll select that and put it there as a value of ng app. So what I have done here, I'm going to summarize. I created a main module in line number 3. Right now, main module does not have any dependencies. Then I created a very simple controller with $scope object and attach a name to the $scope object. Then on the index.html, what I'm doing, I'm just displaying that, setting the ng controller value in line number 13. Okay. And then I'm setting the value of ng app, which is my app. So this is done. Let us go ahead and run the application now. And I'll go ahead and press F5, and here you see that we are getting hello Infragistics. And if you remember, we set the value of name property in the product controller as Infragistics, and in this way we are passing the data from code behind or the controller to the view. Message you can take from this demo is controller is something which is very important. Controller is a JavaScript function in AngularJS, which is used to pass the data and behavior or the business logic to your views. Okay, so let us go ahead here again and to web application, and let us make more complex demo, and then we'll come to the theory again. What I'm going to do here very quickly, I will create a JavaScript array, and to create a JavaScript array, I'm not going to waste your time. So I will just copy paste some of the code. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, just give me a moment. Great. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a JavaScript array, and I can create a JavaScript array like $scope. So as you see what I'm doing, I'm creating a JavaScript array here, which is $scope.author, and that has a few authors name. Okay. Now we need to display this array in the view. But let me go ahead and add more value. Let us say that each JavaScript array has a value called I mean which take they work with, and I'm going to say that hey, take is, let us say, AngularJS, and I'll just copy paste this here. For the Glen block, I can say take is Node.js. For Dan Valin, again, I can say take AngularJS. For Maheshchand, I can say take, let us say, WPF. For Prabjot Singh, I can say take as Azure, and for the Julie Lerman, I can say take as Entity Framework. So you see that I have a JavaScript array. What I'm doing inside the product controller, actually, we are creating a JavaScript array which is having name and take as a property. And actually, this is a JSON object which is as a JavaScript array here. And now we need to display this data, to the on the screen. And how we can do that? So I'll go here and in the index.html and again create another div. I'll say div class another row and set the ng controller value to the product controller. Okay. And let us go ahead and we want to display that data in a table. So we'll create a table. Okay. As a class equal to table. These are the bootstrap table. Once that is done, inside table we have something called tr, number of rows, and what we want to repeat the number of rows, and that is done by a directive called ng-repeat. So I'll go here in line number 18. What I'm doing, I'm using ng-repeat, and I'm saying a in, and what is that? In is the author. So I'll take these authors here and I'll put it here, a in authors. Okay. So what line number 18 is doing, we are instructing, we are again using a directive. Now what is directive? I'll come to that later. Directives are AngularJS command which change the behavior of your HTML element. Okay. So just a minute. Great. So what I'm doing here, that I'm saying that, hey, repeat these rows to the number of rows in the array, and we are using ng-repeat here. Okay. Then I'll go here and take the td, and I can say a dot. We want to display the name, and then I want to display the take also, which can be displayed like a dot take. Great. So what we are doing here, again assigning the ng controller value in line number 16 of HTML. Then we are creating a table saying that number of rows should be repeated as a number of rows in the array, and then we are displaying name and take. Now let us go ahead and run the application again, and you see here that we are getting the results from the JavaScript array on the view. Sounds good? So we are not done yet. Let us go and try some client-side filtering here. And for that, what I'll do, I'll go back to my web application again. I'll get rid of this row ng controller. I don't want that. And on top of that, what I'll do, I'll create another input box and say input type equal to text. Okay, and then I'll say placeholder search here and assign a variable name to this using ng model, and let us call that as search term. So what I have done, I created a input box in line number 16, and I'm saying that, hey, placeholder search here, and the ng model is search term. I'll take the search term from here. I'll go to the ng repeat, and I'll put a pipe, and I'll say that, hey, filter this particular array on basis of the search term, which is in line number 16. It's super simple. What I'm doing in line number 19, I'm assigning a filter to my JavaScript array. Great. Now I'll go back here and again run the application. So if you go ahead and run the application again, you see here we have something called search here text box. Start typing that text box, which is here, search here. This particular whole table should get filtered. So I'll go here and start typing. You see, as I'm typing, it is filtering the whole table, and it's doing the client-side filtering in my Angular app. And now you can see the power of AngularJS, that just to achieve the client-side filtering, I had to actually write one word of the code. This is the power of AngularJS. And now let us go and understand a little bit of theory of AngularJS components, and then we'll come back to the demo again. I hope so far it's going good, and you are able to follow along. There's a question called how to search in tech. It is actually right now searching, and that question is raised by someone called Mayank Misra. So Mayank, right now it is searching in all the items. So if I type also node, you see that it is searching in tech also. If you want to make sure that it only search, the search term should only search on a particular column, just go to the search term dot column name you can put, and it will search everywhere. I mean, in that particular column. Okay, guys, so let us go back to the presentation once again. As I told you, that main components of AngularJS are controllers, scopes, services, directives, routings, module, views, data binding, and filters. And once again, I request each one of you that if you are using Twitter or Facebook, feel free to share your experience during the webinar or maybe after the webinar about the webinar experience with the hashtag Infragistics. You may have a chance to win the Infragistic t-shirt from us. Great. So as we see that these are the main components of AngularJS: controllers, scopes, services, directives, routings, modules, views, data binding, and filters. We just saw controllers and scopes, and also we saw the module. Let's go into the detail of of controllers. And before that, let us understand a scope object. You remember that that what we did, we attached the properties to $scope object. What $scope object does, actually it talk to each other using this $scope object. Your view and your controllers are talk to each other through the $scope object. So if your view has to send something to controller, it will attach to $scope. Your controller has to send something to view, it will attach to the $scope object. So what actually a scope does, a scope serves as the glue between controller and the view. As we just saw, view and the controller both have access of the $scope object. A scope passes data and behavior to the view from the controller. A scope provides execution context for the DOM and the expression. What is that? I'm coming to that. What is the execution context? The $scope object is plain JavaScript object. We can add and remove property as required. And then for each controller creation, a new $scope gets created. So each time you use controller on your view, a new $scope will get created. So what happens is that you can use the same controller multiple times on your view, and for each time there would be new $scope object gets created for the controller. Now what is that? We'll see into a demo, but you can take away from this slide that $scope object is someone who works as a communicator between your view and your controller. And if view wants to pass a data or execute a behavior, it will inform that through the $scope object, and same controller pass data and behavior to view using the $scope object. Okay. Uh, Now there's something called rootScope object. If you don't, each $scope object in AngularJS actually inherit the $rootScope object, and rootScope object is topmost scope on DOM element with ngApp directive. As we talked earlier, that in your application there should be only one main module, and for main module a $rootScope is attached to. And as it is saying on the screen that all the $scope object actually inherits in a prototype manner with the $rootScope object. Next is what is controller. Controller is very important in AngularJS. Controller is a JavaScript constructor function which contains data and the business logic. So your data of the application and business logic would be part of the controller. We just saw that. Controller name should start from the capital letter and ends to the controller. For example, author controller, we just created that. Then it takes $scope object as a parameter and attach data and behavior to the $scope object. Again, we saw that a controller takes a $scope object and we attach data and behavior to that. This last point in this slide is very important, that do not use controller to manipulate DOM or create custom filter. So as we talked in very early of the webinar, that AngularJS support test-driven development. All your data and business logic should be unit tested. So if you write if you manipulate view in controller, then there's a dependency in between your view and the controller, and you cannot do the unit testing of your controller without having the view. And to avoid that, you should not have any reference of view in your controller, such that you can do the unit testing of your controller, your business logic, in the isolation of the view. Okay, so so that's the point it is saying here. Next slide, it is saying that each controller has its own child $scope object, as we talked earlier. And then whenever we use a controller, a new object of a scope gets created. Another is that controller can be attached to any level of DOM, hence it creates the scope hierarchy. I'm going to show you a demo on that quickly. Then the scope of the child controller can access and override data and behavior of the parent controller. So that is obvious. Like if you have a property in a root scope object, that can be accessed by the $scope object. So let us write code to understand controller hierarchy and nested controller very quickly. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let us go back to our Visual Studio again. Okay, I'm going to index.js. What I'm going to do here very quickly, what I will do, just to show you, I have been telling you that each time you use a controller, a new instance of controller gets created, right? So let us see that in the demo. What I'm going to do here, very quickly, I have created a controller, a new controller here. Okay, so can you see I have created a new controller called mic, and it should be actually, I can call this as counter control, sorry. So as you see on your screen that I have created a new controller in line number 22 called counter controller, which is taking a dollar scope as an object. In this, I have a scope.counter equal to 0, and then that is the data. Then in line number 25 and line number 26, I'm adding two behaviors, add and sub. When user will click on a button, this add behavior will call and increase the counter of the by 1. And if user will click on a minus button, user will decrease the counter by -1. So this is a very simple controller. And next, let us go ahead, and what we'll do, we'll create a div on index.html. Let me go ahead and comment these two. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I've created a new div in HTML and setting the controller value as counter controller, which you can see on your screen. Inside that, I'm displaying the counter. Then what I'm doing, I have two buttons. One is on one button, using the ng click, I'm calling the add behavior. Whereas on another button, I'm calling the sub, which you can see on your screen. Now let us go ahead and run this. Now if I go and run my app, you see that I have the counter set to 0 and then two buttons plus and minus. Right? So now I'll go and click on this plus. This will increase the value by like 1 of the counter, as you see on your screen. Right now the value is 4. And when I click on minus, it should decrease the value. So it is a very simple counter controller. Now I have been telling you that each time you use a controller on your view, it creates a new instance of the controller, right? So what I'm going to do here, that I will use the same controller more than once. So here I'm using it once. I have pasted the same controller 4 times, as you see on your screen. Now we are using the same counter controller in line number 30. Then I'm using the same counter calculator in line number 35. Then I'm using the same counter calculator in line number 40. So it is being used 4 times in my view in my application. Is it clear? Now let us go ahead and run app again. So as you see on your screen now, you have like the different div with the different controller. Now the message what I'm trying to convey, you see that if I'm changing the value of one controller scope object, which you can see in the first div, value of other controller scope object is not getting changed. It says that each time you use, you see in the first we have 5, for the third we have -5, for the second we have 9, whereas for fourth we have like -13 or 14 something. So the message it is saying that each time you use a controller, it creates a new object of the controller. You see here it is object 1, here it is object 2 of the same controller, and here it is object 4. And that is why when you are changing value in one controller element, it is not affecting value of another controller object. So to summarize, controller is a JavaScript constructor function, and AngularJS creates object of the controller each time you use it on your view. Great. So here it is, you understood that how controller works. Now you may want that, you may have a requirement that, hey, I don't want to create object each time of the function. I want that whenever user, I want that something should be persistent to the application, or single object should be there for the whole application. And for that, what you do, you create services. The basic difference between services and controller in AngularJS, controller is kind of constructor function, whereas services are kind of kind of singleton function. AngularJS creates only one object of the service for the entire application, whereas it creates number of objects for controller as you use it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you that how you can create a multi views which is more complex, and then we'll shift that to fetch data from the database. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, is that I'm going to create a scope inside the counter controller. I will inside the same product controller, I'll go and get rid of these scope.name and scope.authors. I'm commenting that, and I'm adding another static data called scope.search. And as you see that in the scope.search, this is a complex JavaScript array. It has a ID, then it has a sort image, and it is taking image from the internet. Then it has a code, then it has a price, then it has a total in stock, then it has a in stock value. So can you see on your screen that we have a JavaScript, we have a hard-coded JavaScript array in my controller, and we need to create a view which will display this sort. Later in the webinar, we'll fetch this data from the database. I'll show you how to do that. So we have created that. Now let us go back to index.html and get rid of everything which is here. We don't want them now. So let me go ahead and comment them. Now I have a pretty simple div class container. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create, we need to display that, and how we can display that. For that, let us go ahead and create a table. Okay, so we are going to display that in table, and this is very important, guys. Okay, please focus here. I'm going ahead and say div class as row. Okay, so this is a div, and inside this div you want to display that data. And what I'm going to do, I'm displaying that data like this. So this is a very simple code. If you see on a screen, what I'm doing inside the div, I'm creating a table, calling the class table. Okay. So I'm repeating the number of sorts, ng repeat. Then I have created a TD. Okay. Inside a TD, what I'm saying that, hey, I'm using bootstrap. I'm creating a new row. In that row, I'm using the image and displaying the image from the URL. Then I'm creating another row where I'm displaying the sort code, whatever the code is there in line number 57. Then I'm displaying the sort price, which is in line number 60. Another divs are just the bootstrap div to make it more immersive. You don't have to worry about that. If you don't use bootstrap, you can put your own CSS. But the message I'm trying to convey is that how you really don't have to display the data in multiple columns. You can create your own template like this, and you can display the data. I have a details and shop here. Now what I'll do, I'll go to the in line number 45 where I'm creating the div, and I have to set ng controller to something called product controller. Okay, great. So what I have done here, I have created inside the product controller a JavaScript array which is having complex properties. Then in line number 45, I'm setting the ng controller. Then I'm creating a table, and inside that table, using the bootstrap, I'm trying to create a view more immersive and displaying different values. You see that I'm displaying sort code in line number 57. In the image, what I'm doing, I'm displaying the sort image, right? In line number 66. I'm displaying the number in stock and total in stock. Then in line number 68 and 69, I'm putting two buttons like details and shop. So far so good. Let us go ahead and run the application. So here's the app. Let's go ahead and run the app. And as you can see on your screen, you have just created, displaying that a kind of t-shirt shopping cart, which is super simple to create. I'm just displaying the images and the codes and the price and the details and the shop, etc. And that is coming from a hard-coded JavaScript array, which is here. Scope.search. Now next what we are going to do, we need to display this data from the database. We don't want this to be hard-coded. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, let me show you the database. I already have a database created here in the SQL Server. You can have your data in any kind of database. I'm using SQL Server here. Okay, and inside the SQL Server, I have a database called tcoder data store, which you can see here, and that database has a table called t-shirt, and we are going to fetch data from this database and work in our Angular app. So we have this database here. Okay, now what I have done, I have already created a service, web API service. We are not going into the detail that how we can create that in a web API today. We can do that in later webinars. And here we see that we have created a web API service, which is returning those data from the database. So what we need to do now, we need to display this data, which is coming from a web API or a REST-based service in our Angular app. To do that, what you first need to, and we will do that in the services. And to do that, what you need to do very first, go to your service, okay, and go to your application. I'm sorry. In the application, first right-click and add a new JavaScript file. I'll call that as, let us say, service.js. So I have created a service.js. Okay. I will take this AngularJS from here, reference of AngularJS such that my IntelliSense works. So I added that. Now we have to create a module. Each JavaScript file should have at least one module. I'll go ahead and what I'll do, I'll first say, hey, use strict such that if there would be some error, etc., it will tell us. Now again, I have to create a module, which you see that how I'm creating a module called tcoder service module, angular.module equal to tcoder service module. You remember that we created that main module also in the same manner. So I created that module over here. Now you can create services in AngularJS in 4 different ways. Like you can create service using service method or factory method. And there are other options. We are not going into detail of that. But here we have created a module. Once the module is created, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a service using the factory method. What factory method does, it returns an object. Okay. So here I am creating a service using the factory. You see that here in line number 7, I'm saying that tcoder service.factory. When you create an AngularJS service using the factory method, it returns a JavaScript object, and I'm giving the name as tcoder service. As a dependency, I'm passing $HTTP. This is an AngularJS inbuilt service to make HTTP call. So if you have a REST-based service or a web API and you want to call them, consume them in AngularJS app, you may use $HTTP AngularJS inbuilt service. Okay, and then I'm passing that as in dependency and function HTTP. So this is tcoder service. Now what I'll do, I need to create an object and a base URL. So I'm doing here, I'm saying that, hey, the base URL is, this is my service URL in line number 9. and then I'm creating a object which is tcoder service, and this object we need to return this tcoder object from this factory. So I'm returning that. Okay, once that is done, what we need to do, we need to say that, hey, tcoder service dot get item. So here get items is my name, giving here line number 12 function. Then what it is returning, return $http dot get. We are performing here, we are performing a HTTP GET operation. I'm not inserting or updating or deleting any data on the server. If you insert something, you have to pass, you need to use $http.post. Since here I'm only reading the value, what I'm saying $http.get, then I'm passing the base URL and the t-shirt. So you remember our service is running over here 1144 API/t-shirts, if you remember from the browser. So I'm constructing this URL in the AngularJS app, and I'm using $http.get to fetch the data from the web API. So actually I'm constructing this URL which you can see on your screen. I'll go back to application again. Okay, so here I'm saying that, hey, return this $http.get URL based t-shirts. So we have written the service now. Now we need to use this service in our app. Very first, what we need to do, we need to take this module, tcoder service module, which we created in line number 5. We'll go to our index.js, and very first we need to pass that as a dependency to the main module. You remember I told you that if you are going to use any other module in the main module, first you need to pass that as a dependency, and I'm passing that as a dependency here. Okay, once you pass that, we are going to use that inside this $scope product controller. So we need to pass the service name here also, which is tcoder service as a parameter, and I'll pass it here, control V tcoder service. So we passed both the dependencies, tcoder service module, which is the module dependency, to the module in line number 3. Okay, and then I'm passing the service because your service module may have 100 of services. You don't want to pass them. You don't want to create instance of all of them in all the controllers. So in product controller, we need tcoder service. So I'm passing that over here, as you see on your screen. Great. Next, what we need to do, we need to call that service. And how we'll call, before calling that, let us go ahead and comment this is $scope.search. We don't want hard-coded data, we want data from the service. We'll go ahead and say Control V in the, and I'm just pasting the code. What I'm saying, tcoder service dot get items, as you see on your screen, line number 28. I'm talking, and I'm saying that when this particular function is getting successfully called, what you do, you set the $scope.search equal to items, because we are returning items from there. Okay, and if it is failed, just say $scope.status unable to load data. So it's very simple, tcoder service dot get items. You remember in the service we created a function called get items. If I go and show you here, dot get items in service.js. Right? So we are calling that here, and just we are setting the value source. You see line number 19, what we were doing, we are setting that to a hard-coded value, but here we are setting that value to source in line number 30 to the data which is coming from a database server through a REST-based service or web API. Get. Once this is done, don't forget to go ahead in your index.html and add the reference of service.js also. So I'll go here and drag and drop service.js here. I added a reference of service.js in the reference in line number 7. Now let us go ahead and run the application, and this time when app will run, we'll see that we are getting the data from the database. I'll go ahead and run the application again. When last time we ran, we had like around 4 t-shirts. Right now in our database, we have only 2 items, 2 rows. When we display it here, you see we are getting only 2 items here in the application. And those 2 items are coming from the server, from the database server. You see that I have a tag here, never forgive. I'll go here to teacher data store. I'll say that, hey, I want to edit the table. And let me go ahead and change this to something else. I'll say that I am awesome. So I'm updating the data in the database. As you see on your screen, I changed the code for the second t-shirt. I'll click on refresh it, and now we have changed the data in the database. We'll go back to our application again, and now in application, what I'm going to do, I'll refresh the application, and here you see for the second item, code has been changed. Can you notice that? So we just learned that how we can fetch data from the database using the services. Oh, I just checked the clock and we are already 10 minutes ahead, cross the 10 more minutes from the scheduled time. But I'll just go just quickly. We have almost done. So as you see on your screen that, let us just go and walk through the code through the PPT. We just learned how what is services. In AngularJS, services are used to organize and share data and function across the application. Services provides method to communicate data across the controller in a consistent way. Service is a singleton object and gets instantiated only once per application using the injector. So we just saw that controller, if you use that 10 times, there would be 10 object of controller. If you use service 10 times, or 100 times, there will be only 1 object of services. You can create service in AngularJS using service, using factory, using provider, using value, using constant. If you create a service using the factory, actually object you get as a return, and you can add and remove property to object. If you create that using service, a function gets returned and you can call that from your controller. We can do sometimes advanced AngularJS in which we'll cover this. And if you are coming tomorrow for the Infragistics day, we'll again cover these topics. So we just saw, we performed the CRUD operation, we did the HTTP service and all that in the last demo, which you can see on your screen. Great. Today we are skipping directives, but just directives are our AngularJS component, which gives a special meaning to your existing HTML element. Today we are skipping that due to time constraint, but probably we can do just directives in AngularJS in later webinar. So I'll just pass this. So great. Thank you so much, guys, for joining today's webinar. I hope it is useful for you. Feel free to share your experience on the tweet, on the email, on the Facebook, but don't forget to add a hashtag Infragistics. If you have any question, you can regarding Infragistics, you can go to infragistics.com, download the trial of our products like Ignite UI, which helps you to create charts, create other components which are not given to you by AngularJS, like rich text box, like different kinds of charts and other controls, and you can explore them. You can reach us to sales-india@infragistics.com, and we will share this webinar recording next week sometime. And once again, happy Eid to everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. I guess it was useful to you, and see you soon in next webinar. And if you are from Delhi, feel free to join tomorrow in our Infragistics day. I again share with you the where you can register. You can go to this URL I'm sharing with everyone to register. For Infragistics Day, please come early by 9 a.m. such that you get seat, because we'll maximum accommodate 120 people. And tomorrow we are going to do in a detail, like lab one everything is there tomorrow which you may need. Feel free to go and explore. Feel free to go and explore infragistics.com to know more about us. And if you have any query, you can reach me on debugmode@outlook.com. So thank you so much everyone for joining today's webinar. I hope it is useful. See you soon. In next 2 minutes, I'll be concluding the webinar and stopping the webinar. We'll announce about the next webinar. We will announce about next webinar. We will share the PPT, the source code, and recording of the webinar with you next week. And once again, thank you so much everyone for joining today's webinar.